Hello, everybody. This is Eliakim Cohen back with Torah through Truth, Truth through Torah. This is part 2 of our 23-part series on the Hebrew letters. Today is the letter Mem, the 13th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, perhaps the most mystical and unique of all the letters is the letter Mem. It also has a counterpart, the final Mem. So what we're doing is a 22-part series on the letters, and then there'll be one additional lecture on the 5 final letters all in one. So it'll be a 23-part series. I have 8 of the letters already sponsored. If anyone out there is interested, maybe a letter of your name, maybe a letter of a parent's name, a child's name, just message me. I'll tell you what's available. All the lectures now can be seen on YouTube. I think there's 86 lectures that I uploaded in the last few weeks. All the lectures I've done since I got to America. So many different amazing topics. Just hundreds of thousands of hours watched, Baruch Hashem, by people. And the messages that I'm getting are just unbelievable. I'm doing my best to bring the truth of the Torah. And Mem plays a very integral part in truth. It is the middle letter of what? MS. What's Hashem's seal? MS. MS is truth. So Mem is the 13th letter of the Hebrew Aleph Beis. But it's actually the 14th letter in direct middle letter when you include the final letters, right? So there's like Chaf and final Chaf. That comes before the Mem. So Mem, when you're including all the letters, including the final letters, Mem is the direct middle of the Aleph Beis. Aleph is first. We just did a whole lecture on Aleph last week. Wanted to start with the Aleph. These are all going to be out of order. Whoever sponsors, they come first. And then Saf is the last letter, Taf, right? What's unique about a Mem? It's got 2 bases. It's a sturdy letter. Aleph has 2 bases, Mem has 2 bases, and Taf has 2 bases. Meaning what? They're sturdy letters. MS is truth, is sturdy. It's strong. It's built to last. Sheker, the Hebrew word for falsehood, is a shin, a kuf, and a resh. All of them stand on one base, meaning they're what? They're wobbly. The person who sponsored this lecture is doing this for a brother, Michoel ben Sinai Natan. And my son also wanted to sponsor this lecture. My 5-year-old son, Baruch Hashem, because all 3 of his names in Hebrew contain a Mem. 2 of his names start with a Mem, and the other one, the Mem, is the second letter. My son sponsored a lecture a few months ago, and I told him I'll only sponsor the lecture if he gives me all of his money. He's got so much change, just, every single time my parents come home, they're just giving him change. So I said, but you have to give me all your money. And you should have seen the terror on his face. I said, I can only do it if you give me all your money, because I can assure you're going to get something more in return. So later in the day, he said, okay, I'll give you all my money. Handed me all the buckets of change. And I said, okay, you're doing this with an open heart? You definitely want to sponsor? He said, yes. I said, great. Took the money, gave it back to him. Then I gave him an extra $20. Why? To show people when you sponsor Torah, when you're learning Torah, when you're sacrificing anything in your life for the Torah, you cannot lose. You might not see the gain immediately. For instance, you might say, you know what, it's time for me to start keeping Shabbos. And you close your business on Saturday. And Saturday is your busiest day. And you might think, okay, business is now going to fly the other days. But maybe it doesn't. Why? Hashem's testing you. You're just doing this for the money. Plus, all the time that you were open on Saturdays, you now have to pay back for. You can never lose by following Hashem. Whether it's in this world that you gain, or specifically in the next world where you really want to gain, you cannot ever lose out or have anything subtracted from you or be missing anything by taking the Torah that Hashem wondrously blessed to the Jewish people and just making this the focal point of your life. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the letter Mem, which is such an unbelievable mystical, special, unique, and transformational letter. You'll see the number one thing we're going to talk about today is the Gematria of the letter Mem, which is 40. 40 is an unbelievably powerful number in Judaism. If you just stopped right now and thought, you know what, there's a few things I know of 40. They were in the desert for 40 years. The spies were there for 40 days. My friend always says that, they're going to go to the Kosel, to the Western Wall, and pray for 40 days. Well, that's the letter Mem. Every Hebrew letter has its own numerical equivalent. Aleph is 1, Base is 2, Gimel is 3, Mem is 40. The letter Mem is significant in Judaism for its connection to water. That is its focal point. Mayim is the Hebrew word for water. So Mayim has the regular Mem at the beginning, and then a Yud, which is actually Mem in the Atbash, meaning if you flip the alphabet, Mem would be Yud reversed, and then the final Mem. So the Ikar of the letter Mem, besides the numerical value of 40, is Mayim. We're going to talk about that later. You have to understand, every letter isn't, in English, there's no difference between an A and an X other than the way that they look. But X could have just as easily been A, and A could have been X. They just happened to draw it that way. There's nothing unique or special or meaningful about how the letters look. In Hebrew, it is the exact opposite. And in Hebrew, it is the only language where the shape of the letters, the actual translation of the letters, the numerical value of the letters is its entire essence. You can learn literally the world through this. Mem could not look any other way other than the way that it does. It's very circular. It's got a little opening on the bottom and a little arrow that goes up to the heavens. A lot of the letters have this. There's something on the bottom, meaning in this world, and also something that either points to the top or is open to the top. The letter Mem has both. It has an opening on the bottom, and it has a point that goes up to the left on the top. Meaning Mem is a very connective letter between the heavens and the earth. Mem is significant in Judaism for its connection to water, which symbolizes life, purification, and divine wisdom. That is the essence of the Mem. It represents creation, the womb, the source of life, as seen in the Hebrew word for Mayim, Mem, Yud, final Mem. The letters' dual forms, open and closed, represent both the revealed and the concealed aspects of divine wisdom and of the Torah. And its importance in spiritual concepts like love, mercy, and judgment. The letter Mem has two different forms, the regular letter Mem and the special final letter, which is completely closed. The regular letter indicates the revealed, everything that we see in creation and understand in its simplest form. The letter Mem is closed on all sides, like I said, except for a small opening on the bottom. It also has on the left side a little piece pointing upward towards the heavens. This piece, together with the open part, indicate the combination of heaven and earth, which allow us to understand the physical aspects of creation. The final letter form of Mem is completely closed on all four sides, and it symbolizes the parts of creation that we just cannot understand. It is so arrogant and selfish on our part to think that we have not only just the ability, but the right and the need to understand every single thing in creation. God gave us every single, puzzle piece or clue that we need to know. There are some things that we just don't know. We will never know exactly how the world is created. There's different midrashim, there's things in the Zohar. We will never understand what happened at that exact moment. Why? It's above our pay grade. We just don't know. To think that we need to, and even Shlomo HaMelech, I like to try to mention Shlomo HaMelech in every episode. Shlomo HaMelech was the wisest person that ever lived. He got to the mitzvah of paraduma, right? Where you shech a red cow, perfectly red heifer. You then take these ashes, you mix it with beautiful natural spring water, and then like a red string and some hyssop. You then take this and you sprinkle it over the head of someone that was impure, and the Kohen who does the sprinkling then becomes impure himself. So the impure person becomes pure, and then the pure Kohen becomes impure. Shlomo Melech said, I do not understand this mitzvah, ergo I don't understand any mitzvah. Some seem logical. Some seem logical to you. They might not be logical to someone else. In the end, there are so many things in this world that are what? Final mem. Closed to us by design. Anything that Hashem wants us to know, he showed us. Ata haresa leda'as. You have been shown, ata haresa, you've been shown everything, lada'as, to know. I did a whole lecture on this one 3-word sentence. Ata haresa lada'as. Everything in this world that you need to have a connection to God has been shown to you. What is incumbent upon you? To basically be that letter mem. To enter through that small opening on the bottom, we need to make the first step in order to direct everything up to the heavens, just like the top left of the mem. Our goal in life is to literally be a mem. One of the names of God is Makom. Mem, Kuf, Vav, final mem, which literally means place, right? Makom. This name expresses that the presence of God exists in every place. It's interesting to see that the first letter of Makom is a mem. The last letter, also a mem, in its final form. In the middle is the word kav, meaning line. It's as if there is a line between the known world and the hidden world. There's a line between us and Hashem. That's what Makom is. Place. That's one of Hashem's name, is literally place. Why? Because Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is everywhere. Just like the song that you sing to kids. The other name of Hashem is Emes, like I said before, which means truth. It's also Hashem's seal. You know, usually the seal of something, like when the king in olden times, they would, stamp a letter with the seal. Well, typically on the seal is what the king wants to represent him the most. Or there's like families out there that have a family crest. Typically there's something on that like embodies this family the most. For instance, the 12 tribes all had their standards, right? Their flags. On each of the 12 tribes was something that embodied the tribe the most. Tribe of Yehuda was the lion. Tribe of Dan was the snake. Benjamin was the wolf. Reuven was the Dudayim. Shimon was the city of Shechem. Hashem's seal is Emes. Well, the middle, the glue of the word Emes is that middle mem. It's also the exact middle letter of the alphabet. There's something connective and integral about the mem. Another word that starts and ends with mem is mayim, right? Mayim, we'll talk about this later, is literally the essence of the mem. We'll talk about exactly what mayim means in Judaism. Mem is the first letter for the word king, melech. It's also the first letter of the word Mashiach, Messiah. Mem is a mother letter that hums with the sound of all creation, searching for its author and king. While the king himself may be hidden, his presence is seen in all things, hence the regular mem and the final mem. Talk a little bit about, a little more of an overview, and then we're going to dive right into the Gematria. Because really, I think the most important thing we can learn from the mem is its numerical value. Every letter is going to be different. Some letters, the shape is the most important. The shape of the mem, obviously, is very important. But some letter, the shape is like the entire letter. Mem, in my opinion, the focal point, the crux of what we need to know about the mem is its numerical equivalent, which is 40. 40 is just an unbelievably powerful letter in Judaism. So let's talk a little bit about the symbolic and mystical importance of the mem. Water and life. Mem is strongly linked to water, the source of all life and creation. It can represent the primordial waters from which the world emerged, or the flow of living waters, as in the biblical verse where Hashem's spirit hovers over the waters. Womb and mother. The final closed mem is linked to the womb. The regular mem can look like gentle waves, representing a source of life and nourishment, much like a mother. Wisdom and Torah. Mem represents the waters of wisdom and understanding. Tehillim 119 begins with mem, focusing on the wisdom and insight gained from the Torah. Open and closed forms. The open mem is used in the middle of a word, or at the beginning of the word, while the closed mem is only used at its end. This duality symbolizes, again, the revealed and concealed aspects of everything associated with Hashem. His Torah, wisdom, His names, everything. The open mem is a source of conscious insight and love, representing the will to connect with others. The closed mem represents the concealed, the deeper source of wisdom, like an underground stream. The combination of the two reflects Hashem's mercy, which draws wisdom into consciousness. Now, let's delve into its numerical equivalent. Again, when I was first becoming religious, the most exciting thing to me in Judaism was Gematria. Gematria is every single Hebrew letter has a numerical equivalent, right? Aleph is 1, all the way up to Yud, which is 10. Chaf is 20, Lamed is 30, Mem is 40. We all know 1, 2, 5, 7, 12, 18, 26, all very famous letters, famous numbers in Judaism. Perhaps the most common number that occurs in so many like powerful and prevalent and transformative places is the number 40. We're going to go through every example of 40. And you'll see first of all, there's a bond between all of them. 40 has great significance throughout the Torah, throughout the Talmud, throughout Jewish history. 40 represents transition, transformation, change, renewal, a new beginning, the start of a new spiritual state or destiny, or it's renewal, okay? The Moral of Prague explains that the number 40 always means a cataclysmic change and a new creation. Wherever we are going to see 40, and the examples I'm about to give, you will notice a common theme. For good or for bad, all of these had a massive transformation, a start of something new. Out with the old, in with the new. In every single example, you'll see a common thread. So you need to keep that in mind. 40 is like a revolution. Look, the letters itself, they're very circular, right? It's a cyclical, circular letter. So again, you need to remember transition, transformation, renewal, new beginnings, fresh starts. That is all attributed and tied and linked to the mem. Okay? Where do we start? I'll start with something that just happened. Rosh Chodesh Elul comes, right? Tisha B'Av ends, then Tu B'Av comes, and then everyone's excited for Elul. What happens on the first day of Elul? The first day of Elul, for the Sephardim, they start saying Slichos, right? They say Slichos for 40 days. What happens in Elul for Ashkenazim? We start blowing the shofar, right? What's the start of Elul? Elul it's the month of the year where it says that the king is in the field. Meaning, let's say you lived in like 1300s England. You lived in a little cottage, in some place ending in Chester, right? 1 month out of the year, the king comes out of the palace. He rides around. He, pops his head in. Hey, how you doing, Shlomo? Oh my gosh, the king knows my name. The king is in the field in Elul. It's the start of the process of what? Teshuva, right? Elul is the start of the month of teshuva. From the first of Elul until Yom Kippur, when our verdict is sealed, it is exactly 40 days. What are we supposed to become during these 40 days? We are supposed to become, in essence, a walking letter mem. Meaning what? What's the letter mem again? If you don't know what I'm talking about, then like right now, just pause this and go look at a letter mem. It's helpful to like have these in front of you. I can't hold them up because they come, like they'll show up backwards. And I'm not like good enough drawing to like draw them so that you can actually see it, how it's going to be. I tried doing that the other day and my mind doesn't, work like that. I can give a good lecture. I can't do that. My drawing skills, my writing skills are atrocious. We're supposed to become a mem. Mem is what? Open on the bottom, slightly, a little sliver, open on the bottom. Everything comes from us. Teshuva can't come from Hashem. Hashem can like manipulate things in your life. He can guide you towards certain places, like he did with me. After a high-speed car chase, I realized, I'm not living my life correctly. Facing 15 to 30 years in jail. Maybe all the things I valued in life and thought were important and wanted other people to know or think about me, maybe just that's not like the ikar of what I'm. So what I do? I did teshuva. I said, if I want to turn my life around, why not start with Judaism? I'm Jewish. Why not start with the source? It started from me. Of course, Hashem helped. Hashem, created this, at the time, just catastrophic, being chased by 35 Georgia State Patrol cars. All of them had their guns, drawn on me. But where did the teshuva start? Teshuva didn't start from above. Of course, Hashem helped. He created the situation. Every single person that's doing teshuva needs to start from you. Hashem cannot make you do teshuva. That will take away our bechira. We all have free will. So we all need to do what? We need to be like the letter mem. How does the letter mem look on the bottom? There's a little hole. You need to make the decision. You need to say, you know what? Down here on earth, I am going to make the decision to return to Hashem. You're like sort of inside this letter mem, which then circles around and what? Shoots up at the end. So for 40 days, we're supposed to take stock of our previous year. Where do we want to go? What did I do good this year? Doing teshuva isn't always just, oh my God, I'm such a loser in this area. It's realizing, you know what? I'm doing great in this area. How can I carry this through? How can I learn from excelling in this one situation to then excel, in another area? I'm doing so good now with, managing my time or not speaking lashon hara. How can I, and this used to be like, a problem. How can I, carry this success over to this other area where I'm struggling? All that comes from below, the open area of the men on the bottom. And where is everything supposed to be directed? Top, up to the heavens. That's the letter mem. So Elul is exactly 40 days from Rosh Chodesh Elul to Yom Kippur. There are 40 days between the first of Elul, when we begin to blow the shofar to prepare for Rosh Hashanah, until Yom Kippur, the end of the teshuva period. These 40 days are the most auspicious time in the entire year for growth and renewal. We are supposed to come out of Yom Kippur like a newborn baby, free of sin and flying. Literally a new person. Oh my God, so-and-so is unrecognizable. Oh yeah, she just got Botox and a facelift. No, so-and-so is supposed to be unrecognizable because the person that they were on the last day of is not even remotely close to the person that they are 40 days later on Yom Kippur. You're supposed to come out of Yom Kippur a new person. As you're sitting there eating that meal and drinking that first drink, you're supposed to not just, okay, all the things I want to do. You're supposed to already be flying. And you're supposed to continue this through. We're now in the month of Cheshvan. Did a whole lecture yesterday. What's What's Cheshvan? Why is it called Mar Cheshvan? Because there's no holidays in this month. There's nothing that can artificially uplift us. Whatever we took out of and sucked out of this auspicious period from Elul to Yom Kippur, and then carried that through Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres, this needs to last us, minimum until Hanukkah. When again, there's 8, I don't want to say artificial, to make it sound like a negative, but 8 days that are built in that sort of throw us back and thrust us back towards Kedusha. These are the things we're supposed to do on our own. And it starts with Elul, Rosh Chodesh Elul, that's 40 days till Yom Kippur. 40 days is the number of days that it rained, just last week's Parsha, the flood, the Mabul, right? Mabul starts with what? Mem, of course. Anything related to water, Mem, Mabul, 40. 40 days and 40 nights it rained in the world. It's no accident that in the story of Noah, the rain poured for 40 days and submerged the world in water. Just as a person leaves a mikveh pure, we'll talk about that in a minute, so too when the waters of the flood subsided, the world was literally purified. It was like the cartoon, it was a whole new world. It was a renewed, refreshed world. All the corruption, licentiousness, just despicable behavior was all washed away. Hashem literally gave the world a fresh start. 40 days and 40 nights. What else is 40? How long was Moshe on Har Sinai getting the Torah? Moshe actually ascended the mountain 3 times, 3 separate times. The first 40-day sojourn took place when he received the Torah. Then Moshe descended with the tablets, but shattered them when he saw the Egel Zahav, the golden calf, that the people made in his absence. The following morning, Moshe returned to the mountain for another 40 days to pray on behalf of the Jewish people. When Moshe returned to the encampment, Hashem called out for him to return to the mountain, this time with his own tablets. Moshe dug under his tent and found 2 sapphire stones, brought them up to Har Sinai for a third and final 40 days. Hashem engraved the 10 commandments on them. It was the 10th of the month of Tishrei when Moshe came down from the mountain with Hashem's laws after these final 40 days. Hashem declared, I have forgiven the Jewish people as you have asked. The culmination of these 3 40-day periods was the 10th of Tishrei, Yom Kippur. Again, something relating to Yom Kippur. And again, you see 40 days, Hashem forgives. 40 days took Moshe to get the Torah. He broke the first one. 40 days again to get the second luchos engraved by Hashem. 40 again. Transformation, renewal, new beginning. Talking about purity. The minimum amount of water that you need for a mikveh is a ritual bath, needs to be 40 seah. Seah is a biblical measurement. When a person becomes ritually impure, they must immerse in a ritual bath, which is called a mikveh. The Talmud tells us that a mikveh must be filled with a minimum of 40 seah of water. 39.9, you go in impure, you come out impure. 40.0, you go in impure, you come out pure. Immersion in a mikveh is the consummate Jewish symbol of spiritual renewal. And again, the rabbis didn't just sit there and say, what number can we think of that'll make it? No, this was halacha, Moshe Sinai, from Moshe, that he received from Hashem, 40. Everything relating to transformation. Again, just look at the shape of the mem. The shape of English letters is totally irrelevant. The shape of, whatever other language is totally irrelevant. The shape, the sound, the meaning, the numerical value of every single Hebrew letter is divine. Everything relating to the mem is renewal, transformation. It's circular, which is why the letters are circular. The regular mem and the final mem both have a cyclical, circular, transformative nature to it. According to the Talmud, it takes 40 days for an embryo to be formed in a mother's womb. And Kabbalah, 40 represents the 4 sides of the world. each side containing 10 spheros, which are the esoteric powers. When a rabbinical court finds someone guilty of a crime, the punishment is sometimes lashes, as prescribed in the Torah. 40 lashes. The purpose is to bring the offender to a point of what? Change, transformation, teshuva, reform, all having to do with the mem, all having to do with 40. It's the same thread that ties every single one of these instances where 40 shows up. What else? According to the Talmud, Pirkei Avos 5:26, at the age of 40, we'll talk about this in a little bit, a person transitions from one level of wisdom to the next. He reaches the level of Bina. Bina is the deeper insight of understanding one matter from another. After Moshe led the Jewish people for 40 years in the wilderness, he told them, God has not given you a heart to know, and eyes to see, and ears to hear until this day. From here we see that it took the Jewish people 40 years exactly before reaching a full level of understanding. How long were the Jews in the desert? 40 years. I mean, this one's amazing. At age 40, a person transitions from one level of wisdom to the next. We're now at Bina when you hit 40. But it's right in the Torah. Hashem has not given you a heart to know and eyes to see and ears to hear until this day. The Jewish people in the desert for 40 years. At 40 years, basically the last day of Moshe's life, is when he says this. I mean, there's a reason why I'm doing all the Hebrew letters. If you just watch, I mean, God willing, all 23 lectures, we're on number 2. And these are really fun to prepare for, because I mean, every one is just like, I've wanted to do this for so long, because I always tell people, just learn a little bit about the Hebrew letters. You won't even need like any of these Torah proofs or, like we can prove Hashem through science. You can prove Hashem through the letters. Hashem gave the Torah in Hebrew. Hebrew is the only divine language. All these amazing things, like they're surprising because they're so beautiful, but they shouldn't surprise anybody. Hebrew is the only divine language. The Torah is in Hebrew. I mean, God has not given you a heart to know, eyes to see, ears to hear until this day. Exactly 40 years. Then the Jewish people reached a new level of understanding. Again, 40. Metamorphosis. Transition. After 40 days, the embryo of a child begins to assume recognizable form. Let's get back to I meant to do this. Each of Moshe's 40-day sojourns in the heavens signified a transformation. The first 40 days was to receive the Torah. When an individual learns Torah, he or she develops the ability to change for the better. The second trip was for prayer, tefillah. When a person prays, he or she can change an evil decree. In this case, the prayers annulled Hashem's intention to annihilate the Jewish people. Moshe was in the heavens for 40 days. Was on Har Sinai for 40 days, trying to nullify Hashem's intention to destroy the Jewish people. But it took 40 days to do this. Not 39, not 41, exactly 40. The final ascent represented teshuva, also a transformation. Teshuva, literally, you're a new person. When someone converts to Judaism, they go to the mikveh, they come out, they assume a new Hebrew name. They are literally a new person. They no longer have any connection to their parents or family. Sure, the person is still their mother, but they have no spiritual, because they have a new soul. They are an entirely new bria. They're a new creation. The final ascent represented teshuva, also a transformative process because a person repents. When a person repents, he is no longer the same person that he was when he sinned. When Moshe finally returned to the Jewish people with Hashem's laws, they were at a level of atonement and thus prepared to finally become Hashem's nation. The words tefillah and teshuva begin with a tav. Right? The last letter tav has a numerical value of 400 or 40 times 10. Serving Hashem with all of one's 10 faculties for 40 days, 400. The 40 years that the Jews spent in the desert also constituted a transformation. The nation that had rebelled against Hashem sort of metamorphosized themselves into a nation that was ready to adhere to his word. How long were the spies in the land before they came back with their evil report? 40 days. What was the punishment? They were there for 40 days. They came back. They spoke an evil report on the 9th of Av. That's why every single terrible national tragedy typically happens on the 9th of Av, including the two biggest tragedies, which were the destructions of both of our temples, both Beis HaMikdash. So they go for 40 days. They come back, and they speak an evil report. And the punishment is that they now have to wander the desert for 40 years. Why the calculation of 40 years for 40 days? Hashem pronounced the following terrible decree upon the Jewish people for the sin of the spies. Like the number of the days that you spied out the land, 40 days, a day for a year shall you bear your iniquities, 40 years. You shall know what parting from me is. This is in Bamidbar, 1434. Instead of moving directly to the land of Israel, they were to remain 40 years in the desert. Why 40 years? Why specifically a year for a day? Every day the spies were in Eretz Yisrael gathering their negative reports. They would need to spend a corresponding 1-year period wandering the desert before they could enter Eretz Yisrael. Rav Asher Weiss asked a simple question. The actual sin of the spies occurred when they returned and delivered the negative report, right? They came back on the 9th of Av. They give the negative report. That took what? A couple of minutes? What's the 40 days? They travel the land, they traverse the land for 40 days. They come back, they give a negative report. The negative report lasted what? A few minutes, 10 minutes, half hour, tops. The actual sin of the spies occurred when they returned and delivered their negative report on that infamous Erev Tisha B'Av. The report was delivered in at most 1 day. I'd like to say probably 10, 15, 20 minutes. For the previous 39 days, or even for the entire 40-day period, they did not report anything. They didn't do any damage. They were merely gathering information. How do we understand the correlation of 40-year punishment for 40 days of the sin of the spies, when the actual sin was just reporting something negative? I mean, it's a good question. They left. They scouted the land. They picked up the fruits. They're carrying the fruits. They're checking out the land. They're, writing down in their notes, okay, these people are giants. Oh, the fruit looks weird. But the actual sin was what? Coming back and saying, we're not going to be able to overcome them. In fact, the hidden meaning of what the spy said was not that they're too powerful for us, but they're too powerful for Hashem. That's what the hidden meaning of what the spy said. So this is a great question. 40 days is being attributed to them for sinning. So the corresponding punishment was a year for a day. So 40 years. But did they really sin for 40 days? Yeah, they did. They come back 1 day. They speak ill for a few hours at most. And then they're punished a year for a day. Rav Asher Weiss answers by citing a rule we have cited many times in the past. The sin of Lashon Hara is not only of the mouth. It is a sin of the eyes as well. A sin in how one perceives things. Two people can see virtually the same thing and view it in totally different ways. The reason the punishment was 40 years for 40 days is because for 40 days, the spies looked negatively at Eretz Yisrael. Everything they saw, they processed with a jaundiced view. Chazal say again, according to simple interpretation, that the expression, a land that devours its inhabitants, reflects the fact that they saw funerals every day. Rather than seeing this as the hand of God, that Hashem was keeping the people occupied by burying the dead of such wicked inhabitants, so that they wouldn't notice the spies, they saw it as a sign that the land was inhospitable and caused the premature death of its inhabitants. For 40 days, their perception was negative. Therefore, when they came back and delivered their report to the nation, we are not talking about a sin whose duration was a few hours, or at most a day. Their report was a climax of 40 days of negative thoughts and viewpoints and decision-making of everything having to do with the land of Israel. It was a 40-day misperception and misconception. 40 days of cynicism. 40 days of being negative. 40 days of lashon hara. 40 is what? They transformed into the negative, evil spies. They didn't leave like this. They came back like this. It was a cumulative process of 40 days. It goes in reverse too. 40 days from Elul to Tishrei. We can literally become new people. And you see this sometimes. You see people that they get it, that understand how the world works. That when they read, Hashem is in the fields. Hashem is close. Hashem is coming down to see what kind of teshuva you're going to do for the next 40 days. Some people do it. Some people do an unbelievable job. The reverse is also true. Sometimes it only takes 40 days to go from being the leader of a tribe to literally suffering some of the most horrific, shameful deaths in Jewish history. Why? Because this 40-day period wasn't a few hours that they were speaking negatively. From the second they entered Eretz Yisrael to the second they got back, it was a 40-day also transformation, but also in the negative. What else is 40? How about Rabbi Akiva? Love talking about Rabbi Akiva. When did Rabbi Akiva become, on his way towards becoming Rabbi Akiva? Age 40. For the first 40 years of Rabbi Akiva's life, he was a total illiterate ignoramus. And he hated the Torah. And he hated Torah scholars. Very famously, he said to his students, before I did teshuva, I used to say, I want to bite a Torah scholar like a donkey. The students were horrified. Why? They said to Rabbi Akiva, Rebbe, can't you just say, I wanted to bite him like a dog? He said, no. A dog, scratches the surface. A donkey breaks bones. I hated the Torah scholars so much because of my jealousy. I wanted to bite them like a donkey. What happened at age 40? Did a whole lecture on this. Who's probably the most righteous woman in world history? The wife of Rabbi Akiva. What did she see in Rabbi Akiva? She saw an inner beauty. She saw such good morals and midos. Rabbi Akiva was working for her father. Her father was one of the top 3 richest people in Jerusalem. She was unbelievably wealthy. She says to Rabbi Akiva, if you go study Torah, I'll marry you. He says, I don't even know Aleph Beis. What happened? He just started with the Aleph, started with the Beis. What did he see to let him know that he could do it? He saw water dripping on a rock. Again, water. Mem. Mayim. He saw water dripping on a rock, on a stone, big stone. He saw a hole in it. Can water put a hole in stone? No. Can water dripping over and over and over again with persistence, with consistency, penetrate a stone? Yes. What's that? That's the mem. What's the mem? Transformation. Can you go from being your whole life being cocaine and partying and going out trying to get girls and just living a totally immoral life to then sitting and wanting to do nothing other than give Torah lectures? Yeah, it's the story of my life. How did it happen overnight? No. I remember my rabbi opening up the Talmud the first time we learned. I looked at one page. I was so ashamed. I was so devastated. I thought just like Rabbi Akiva. I don't even know. I mean, I knew Aleph Beis. I had to retrain myself how to read. I knew how to read Hebrew earlier in life. I had to retrain myself how to read. You work at it. You transform yourself. You literally become a human embodiment of a mem. Am I anywhere near where I want to be? No, but I'm certainly on the path. I'm inside that mem. I've entered through the lower level of the mem. Anybody can. So many people watching my lectures are also doing this. The beautiful emails I get, the people that I'm friends with or just know through Facebook that watch all of these lectures and send me messages showing me they're in the mem. That's the point. What's the point? Again, everything comes from the bottom, like from the bottom of the mem. We step into the mem and everything is directed up, like the top left of the mem. We literally need to be walking embodiments of a mem, constantly trying to refresh and renew ourselves. And for sure, the best example of this is Rabbi Akiva. He was an illiterate shepherd. Totally illiterate shepherd. He reasoned if soft water could wear away hard stone, then the Torah, which is hard, could penetrate his heart, which is soft. He dedicated himself to studying Torah, starting with the Hebrew alphabet in a class of children. He literally went to learn. You ever seen the movie Billy Madison when Adam Sandler? This is literally what Rabbi Akiva did. First day he was so ashamed, but then the shame wore off, and Rabbi Akiva hit a level of wisdom that even Moshe Rabbeinu did not hit. All of the Talmud is basically the Torah of Rabbi Akiva through his 5 famous students. None of this was extant in the world until Rabbi Akiva hit the age of 40. There's 4 very famous people in Judaism that all had 3 40-year periods. They all lived to exactly 120. Moshe Rabbeinu, Hillel, Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, and Rabbi Akiva. All had 3 40-year periods. When did Moshe come back to Egypt? He was 80 years old, right? Rabbi Akiva starts learning Torah at 40. All 4 of these giants, Moshe, Hillel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and Rabbi Akiva, all had 3 distinct 40-year periods in their lives, transformational periods. It's exactly 40 generations from Moshe to the completion of the Talmud. Ravina and Rav Ashi completed the Talmud. Exactly 40 generations from Moshe to the completion of the Talmud. Again, 40, Gematria, Mem. You see the importance. This is why, the crux of this lecture was focusing on the Gematria, because that really is the most powerful aspect of the Mem. The height to the entrance of to the sanctuary of the Beis HaMikdash was about 40 cubits. You'll hear people sometimes say, I'm going to the Kosel every day for 40 days. They daven every day for 40 days at the Western Wall for better health, or for a shidduch, or for, parnasa, for anything. 40 days. Why? Again, because it is a transformational period. Fasting for 40 days is a unbelievably powerful way to change, your mazel, different things in your life. 40, if you haven't seen, all throughout the Torah, you clear-cut examples. You don't even need Rashis for this. You just see 40 over and over and over again in the Torah, in Judaism, for one reason only. It is the essence of renewal, of transformation, of a fresh start, of a new beginning. Now, let's talk a little bit about the 2 forms of the mem. The open mem and the closed mem. As the Talmud explains, the open mem represents revealed Torah. Closed mem represents the Torah's secrets. The Arizal, famous Arizal, states, it's a mitzvah to reveal the secrets of the Torah. Being now that we find ourselves in the Messianic era, the Torah Mashiach, it's not just permitted, it's an obligation to experience a foretaste of the teachings of Mashiach, which are the secrets of the Torah. This level of Torah is represented by the closed final mem. The Rambam begins his book, Mishneh Torah, with the section of laws entitled The Foundations of Torah. In this section, he discusses Hashem, the angels, the heavens, and explains, this that I told you up until now is called the secrets of creation, the secrets of the chariot. These mystical insights are complex Kabbalistic concepts. Yet the Rambam decided to teach them as a foundation, as a prerequisite for everyone who studies the Torah. The apprehension of Hashem's awesomeness, of his unfathomable ways, must precede even the essential laws of the revealed Torah, such as the Shema, Shabbos, and Tefillin. The mem represents the womb, rechem, which ends with the closed mem. The closed mem represents 9 months when the womb is closed. The open mem represents the period of childbirth when the womb is open. Getting back to the Rambam, the Talmud starts and ends with a mem. The Mishnah begins and ends with the letter mem. Its first word, me'emasai, and the concluding word, bashalom, peace. The Rambam himself also begins and ends his great work, the Mishneh Torah, with a mem, beginning the first chapter with the word meshach, and concluding the final volume with the word mechasim. Again, no coincidences. The two probably greatest works from the oral Torah start with a mem and end with a final mem. There's a reason for that. Start with the mem, end with the mem, just like mayim. Mayim is what? Mayim is like the waters of the flood, the waters of a mikvah. Again, you have to understand renewal, transfer. I say it over and over again to show you. If a letter mem can represent this, surely us as Jews can be walking embodiments of this. This is exactly what we need to do as Jews. Okay. The mystery of the mem. In Kabbalah, the mem is the letter of the water, mayim, symbolizing the spring of the Torah. Just as the waters of an underground spring rise upward from an unknown source to reveal themselves, so does the spring of wisdom rise up from the mysterious source that is Hashem. This flowing stream of inner wisdom can be expressed through the gift of man's speech. As it says in Mishlei, the words a man speaks are deep waters, a flowing stream, a fountain of wisdom. What about the closed mem? Probably the most famous, anything that has to do with an M, is the closed mem in Yeshaya 9:7. And the phrase lemarba hamisra, his rule will be increased. The mem is a final mem, but it occurs in the middle of a word. We're going to talk about this. The Talmud teaches this passage was referring to the righteous king Hezekiah. There's a machlokes who the most righteous king was, David HaMelech or Chizkiyahu. Chizkiyahu did something very unique in his time. He put swords at the entrance to the Beis Midrash, to the places of Torah learning. And he put a sign, anyone who does not learn Torah deserves to be pierced by these swords. So the question is, why would you put it at the entrance to a place where people are already learning Torah? Why don't you put it at the entrance to whatever they had for movie theaters back then, or, like the local bar. Why would you put it at a place where people are already learning Torah? Meaning, the ones that know better, the ones that are already learning Torah. If you're not learning Torah for the right reasons, with the proper intention, and up to your greatest ability, you're the ones that deserve first to be pierced by the sword. Hashem's not expecting, the people of Tel Aviv to be gathering, learning Torah. He's certainly expecting the people of Bnei Brak to be learning Torah. So Hezekiah, he put the sword in the place where the people, of course, were doing the learning. But he wanted these people to be at the top. So why specifically with Hezekiah was this mem closed? It's the most famous of all the mems. What happened with Hezekiah? He failed to sing Shira. He failed to sing as like a thank you to Hashem for saving the Jewish people from Sennacherib's army. So that open mem was then closed off. Why? Because Hezekiah was supposed to be the Mashiach, and Sennacherib was supposed to be Gog, and that was supposed to be the final war of Gog and Magog. But Hezekiah did one thing wrong. He did not sing to Hashem. So I'm going to tell the whole story because it's very fascinating. Again, anytime there's something famous dealing with our topic, we have to delve into the story. The Talmud states, that which is stated that the government may be increased, lamarbeh, and of peace there be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it through justice and righteousness from now and forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts does perform this. This is Yeshaya 9:6, like I said. Rav Tanchum says, Bar Kapara taught in Sippori, due to what reason is that every letter mem in the middle of the word, anywhere you find it in the history of Judaism, is open, yet only one time in Yeshaya 9:6, in the middle of the word, the mem is totally closed. Why is the final mem appearing one time only in the middle of the word? What's the significance? In the Masoretic text, the letter mem in the word lamarbeh is written in the final mem form that appears only at the end of the word and closed on all four sides. This is because the Holy One, blessed be He, sought to designate Chizkiyahu as the Mashiach and to designate Sennacherib and Assyria, respectively, as Gog and Magog. All the prophecy of Yechezkel with regard to the end of days was supposed to be this final confrontation between Chizkiyahu and Sennacherib. What exactly happened? The attribute of justice then says before Hashem, Master of the universe, if regard to David HaMelech, king of Israel, who recited several songs and praises before you, but you did not designate him the Mashiach, with regard to Chizkiyahu, who you performed all these miracles. I mean, angels literally came down and destroyed all of Sennacherib's army at night. They said the army was so vast that 180,000, were killed, but that was just the generals. 180,000 generals. This was millions and millions of people. Sennacherib conquered the entire world. He conquered every single drop of Eretz Yisrael other than Yerushalayim. So the attribute of justice says before Hashem, you performed all these miracles for Chizkiyahu. Yet he did not recite even one shira, one song before you. How can you designate him the Mashiach? Hashem then closed. Right? Closed that idea. That idea was now closed off. This was what? Probably 2,300 years ago. That was supposed to be the end. But it wasn't. That era was then closed off. And it's been closed off since. Immediately the earth began and stated before him, Master of the universe, I will recite song before you in place of the righteous person and designate him as Mashiach. The earth began and recited a song before Hashem. As it stated, from the uttermost part of the earth have we heard songs. Glory to the righteous. But Hashem said, my secret is mine, my secret is mine. Woe unto me. The treacherous deal treacherously, the treacherous deal very treacherously. The angel appointed to oversee the world said before Hashem, Master of the universe, perform the will of this righteous person, meaning Chizkiyahu. A divine voice emerged and said, my secret is mine, my secret is mine. This matter will remain secret, as why I am not bringing the Geula, the redemption, then. The prophet then says, woe unto me, until when? A divine voice emerged and said, the treacherous deal treacherously, the treacherous deal very treacherously. And Rava, some say Rav Yitzhak says, until looters and looters of looters come, the Mashiach will not come. We blew our opportunity. It was then what? Closed off. What symbolizes closed off in Judaism, the final mem, which is closed on all four sides. Okay, mem, like we said, stands for mayim, meaning water. Water constitutes a vital element in our lives. A human being is largely composed of water. The majority of the earth is covered with water. We cannot live without water. Torah is the most vital element in our spiritual lives as Jews. Just like a person cannot live without water, just like plants cannot live without water, just like animals cannot live without water, we cannot live without the Torah. As it's stated, Ein mayim ela Torah. There's no water other than Torah. As the prophet tells us, he who is thirsty shall go and drink. Meaning a Jew thirsty for spirituality, for a better life, to understand how the world works, to have better relationships, has only one outlet. You need to be thirsty for Torah. You will never find it in the hills of the Himalayas or in the universities of Paris. You can only find what you're looking for spiritually as a Jew through the Torah. Again, mayim, mem, Torah, spiritual life, vitality for the Jew is only through water. Famous, parable for this. Just like a fish cannot survive without water, a Jew cannot survive without Torah. The story is told of a fish and a fox. The fish was busy evading a fisherman's net when he spied a fox standing on the shore of the lake. The fox called out to the fish and said, "Little fish, where are you going?" The fish answered, "The fishermen are all trying to catch me, so I'm trying to swim away." Feigning concern, the conniving fox offered a solution. "Little fish, come up out of the water, I'll protect you," replied the fish. "Stupid fox. In the water I still have a chance. Once I leave the water, I will surely die." Where do we see this parable? In the Talmud. Rav Yossi ben Kizma, I believe, is asking Rabbi Akiva why he's still teaching the Torah publicly when the Romans forbade it. And Rabbi Akiva's in jail. He's about to, be massacred by the Romans. He says, "Don't you know that it's forbidden? They're going to kill you." He uses this parable. We can't live without Torah, Rabbi Akiva tells him. If I stop teaching the Torah, I'm going to die, physically and spiritually. If they just catch me, I'm just going to die physically. We can't live without the Torah as Jews. Any Jew that you see that you think is so successful or so happy or so spiritually content that does not have the Torah, that is, it's like putting a brick on like on a card house. You're seeing a mirage. You're seeing something that can't physically happen the way that Hashem created the world. We as Jews cannot flourish without our water. And our water, our mayim, is the Torah. A Jew without Torah is a fish without water. What's water? Sometimes it comes beautifully like a stream. Sometimes it comes in torrents, like the Holocaust, or the Inquisition, or pogroms, or October 7th. Yet even amongst the onslaught, what do? We persevere as a people. Because what else is the Torah? It's our life raft. The moment we leave our Torah, the ties that bind us, to our culture, to our people, to our past. The moment we leave the water, we're just like the fish. We will become spiritually dead. The Torah is also compared to water because water travels unaltered from top to bottom, from the top of a mountain to the lower tiers of valleys. So did Hashem bring down the same deep intellectual Torah he had in heaven to the physical world. The Zohar says Hashem looked into the Torah to create the world. The Torah serves as a blueprint for creation. The wealth and strength of its water carves and continues to carve out the foundation of the entire world. What's another association with water? Water is mayim, right? The word is written with a yud between the two mems, mayim. The sages teach us that this powerful letter is called a fountain or spring of wisdom. Mayan, which means like a stream, spring. HaChochma. Mayan's a very popular girl's name in Israel for this reason. The waters of a spring or fountain ascend from underground hidden source, flowing out above ground. Similarly, the Torah, or the word of Hashem, which is referred to as living water for the soul, flows from the hidden spiritual realm and brings life to the physical realm. Just like our physical bodies need water in order to survive and thrive, so too our souls need the nourishment of the Torah that came from above, comes from below. Also, water flows from the underground springs. Again, what's the mem? You see something unique on top of it, you see something unique on the bottom of it, just like the mayim, which is the essence of the word. The mem also represents the womb, rechem, like I said before. In essence, water is the womb of creation. The Torah begins in the beginning of Hashem creating the heavens and the earth. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'es haaretz. The next verse states that Hashem created the heavens and the earth. And then what does it say? The Spirit of Hashem hovered over the waters. What waters? Since the earth's waters had not yet been created, the waters mentioned here are the womb from which creation emerged, the place of gestation before the world came into existence. The mikvah embodies this concept as well. When one immerses in the mikvah, it is similar to entering the womb of creation, a state of the world yet unborn. At the moment when the person emerges, he or she is reborn. The last thing that a convert does before they become Jewish, they dip in the mikvah, they come out Jewish. They go in a totally different person, and they come out with a brand new, elevated soul. They are literally a new, transformed entity. On a more practical level, the individual submerged in a mikveh is in a medium where he or she can't survive and will ultimately die. When the individual emerges from the water, he or she is renewed. The word mikveh also begins with the letter mem. Okay. One more thing to add about the significance of the word lamarbe, where the final mem is actually in the middle of the word. Mashiach does what? Mashiach brings closure to the exile, right? Final mem is what? It's closed. It blocks off. When this final mem was in the middle of this pasuk in Isaiah, it closed off the ability for Chizkiyahu to be Mashiach. But when Mashiach comes, it's the reverse. It's a positive thing. What else is closed off? Our exile. Gullus. This 2,000-year gullus. I mean, living in Israel the last 15 years, we see the Geula process, but we're still in gullus. I mean, when I go up to Har HaBayis, when I go up to the Temple Mount, and I'm sitting there davening, and I'm literally 75 yards away from where the Kodesh Kodeshim was, and you see Muslims playing soccer, and women with their shopping bags using it as a shortcut, and kids kicking the ball, and eating ices and throwing it on the floor. We're not there yet. We're still in gullus, but you can feel it ending. That's why this is the most frustrating period, because we're so close. I mean, you could literally go up to Har Bayis. You sit there, sitting there davening mincha. Every time I go up, I like to go up, it's going up once a week usually. Once a week, at least a few times a month. You're right there. You can see the end. We're literally like 75 yards away from the Kodesh Kodeshim. But we're still surrounded by that final man. We're still blocked off. We're not there yet. When the Mashiach comes, what will be blocked off? The gullus, the exile, never to return again. Okay. The Mem also teaches us about balanced emotions, balancing the watery emotions of our feelings. And it's also related to humility. Water is a substance that always runs downhill to the lowest place. Listened to a great lecture the other day. Someone said, anytime someone would go to the Steipler Gaon, he was the father of Rav Kanievsky, the Gadol Hador, leading rabbi of the generations. And he'd start a line of questioning, sort of like asking obnoxious questions about, well, what does the Torah say about this in science? Basically trying to tell the biggest rabbi of the generation, you need to prove the Torah to me. The disciple never wasted any time. He would just tell him, please work on your humility. When you work on your humility, you will no longer have any of these questions, and then you can come back to me. That's all he said. Gave a whole lecture on humility. You can watch it on YouTube. Again, all my lectures now are on YouTube. For now, working on the site. Gonna have a very beautiful site, not just of the Torah lectures. We've done 2 so far. They're not out yet because we're still tweaking them. Basically 1 minute. One is how, it says in shiur that the Western Wall will never be destroyed. And the other is that only on the 8th day of a human being's life is something different than all other days, which is why the bris is connected to this 8th day. Just mind-blowing type stuff. So it's not just going to be my lectures. It's going to be we do like amazing AI videos. So that's stuff that's coming. But you have to watch the lecture on humility, because it's an impossibility that you will ever be able to elevate yourself in life if you're not humble. If Torah is compared to water, and water is, you see like these streams, they flow downhill. It's humility, right? It's being humble. It's saying, I'm so small compared to creation, compared to Hashem, compared to, these wise, rabbis that are on a level of learning that we just can't fathom. We need to be humble. You can't dive into Judaism with any sort of gaiva, with even a trace of gaiva. You have to always understand, you're never on a level that you want to be. You can always go higher. You never can learn, the final amount of Torah. You could beat a video game. You could beat Mario Brothers. You can't beat the Torah. The biggest rabbis that have ever lived will tell you they've learned a drop of water in the ocean compared to, the endless amount of wisdom in the Torah. The Mem symbolizes the fountain of divine wisdom. Just as waters of a physical fountain ascend from their unknown subterranean, the secrets of the abyss, to reveal themselves on earth, so does the fountain of wisdom express the power of flow from the superconscious source. In the terminology of Kabbalah, this flow is from Keter, crown, to Chachma, wisdom. The stream is symbolized in Mishlei, the flowing stream, the source of wisdom. Again, even with the water, you always see water coming downhill. You also see these underground streams, specifically like in Tiberias. The source of wisdom coming from the source. We are taught that there are 13 channels of flow from the superconscious source to the beginning of consciousness. These channels correspond to the 13 attributes of mercy revealed to Moshe at Har Sinai. Mem is the 13th letter of the aleph base. When you include the final letters, like I said, it's the 14th, and it's directly in the middle. But mem is the 13th letter of just the aleph base. And Kabbalah, we're taught that 13 means that there are 13 mems, as it were, appear in the primordial air, the space into which each lamed soars, the letter before it. Each attribute of mercy is, in fact, a contraction of relatively infinite wisdom at the level of the superconscious. I'd like to add just a little bit of, I'm not into Kabbalah, but there's people out there that will get something from this. In order to channel and reveal a flash of wisdom onto the screen of consciousness, conscious wisdom draws its points of insight primarily from that attribute of mercy referred to in the Torah. The flowing stream, which is the flowing stream, the source of wisdom. Again, mem is 13. Mem's Gematria is 40, but it's the 13th letter. The words one, echad, and love, ahava, both equal 13. The secret of the letter mem. The closed final mem, the source of the fountain of wisdom, connected and included with its subterranean superconscious source, corresponds to the secret of echad, one. The open mem from which emerges the point of conscious and insight is the first manifestation of love, clinging to the manifestation of love in the soul. The connection between the two fountains of the mem, the closed fountain and the open fountain, the closed mem and the open mem, is by the power of the 13 attributes, divine attributes of mercy. Hashem, Kel Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim V'Rev Chesed V'Emes. What else is mem? The letter mem is related to motherhood at planetary, personal, and human levels, and to all things that are related to what motherhood provides and symbolizes, such as protecting the process of growth, providing safety, support, accompaniment, and love that has no boundaries, which always gives without counting the cost. Ima, again, the middle letter, mem, for a reason. Just like ms, ima. The letter mem relates to the cyclical nature of time and to the safety of things that are unchangeable, as is apparent in the cycles of the seasons and the promise and fertility they carry within them. But in each development process comes a time when there is a need to know how to give up the fruit in order to continue to grow. The giving up phase is extremely important because without doing it willingly, it will occur in any event on its own accord. However, the things that are then taken might be indispensable. Mem is a space to grow in, a supportive and multicolored growth space. Mem holds inside it the natural healing forces of the world. Mem is a guide, a caregiver, an instructor, a pointer of directions. Mem is also the guardian of secrets. Think of all the words that mem has. Again, such a spiritual. See a lot of mystical aspects of mem, which is probably why it has a regular and final form, the open and the revealed. Mezuzah, the object containing the words of the Torah, placed on the doors of one home, remind us as we kiss it going in and out, why we live, whom we live for. Menorah, what do we do on Hanukkah? We light the menorah, a beautiful golden menorah, and that was in the base of Mikdash, representing the light and presence of Hashem. Mitzvahs, our thoughts will be reflected in our deeds, either good or bad. We either fulfill the mitzvahs or we don't. Some of our deeds will be inscribed in our own personal what? When we get to the next world, we basically come with our own Megillah, the scroll of our lives. Mem is also the beginning of the word moach, meaning brain. Makshavos, thoughts, your thoughts. Such a beautiful, special, powerful letter. All that, one letter. We could go on for forever, but the ikar of this is the 40 the mayim, the open, and the closed. The revealed and the secret. You saw so many mystical type, all these esoteric descriptions of Mayanot, the springs, sources flowing from below, also from above, coming down, going up. It's literally all there in just the shape of the mem itself. Again, what is a mem? Mem has two bases. Between the two bases is one little sliver of space that what? Meaning what? Everything starts down here. We have the ability to do what? To basically make a mem in our lives. Mem is 40, Gematria 40. We have the ability at every second. Don't say, oh, you know what, I'm 26. I'll wait another 14 years till I'm 40 No. All it takes is just the first step. That literally is just the beauty of the letter itself. You look at that mem, you see the little arrow going up. Again, just the direction itself. You see this with all the letters. You see the gimel is resting on basically the same thing as the mem going up, but the gimel is resting on it going down, sort of like a rocking chair. All these different letters, they're all divine. The revealed, the secret, things that we can see just by looking at the letters, things that, sages like Rashi point out. Just the whole goal of this was to just blow your mind, was to be able to do an hour and 21-minute lecture on just a letter. And the Aleph lecture was even longer because it was the first one. People, I can't impress upon you enough. The crux of every lecture that I do revolves around this. Clearly there is a God. Clearly there's something unique about the Jewish people. What is the only thing that separates us from the rest of the world? Yes, we're very intelligent. Yes, we're very family-oriented. Yes, we seem to control Hollywood and the banks and the media and all these different things. But there's only one reason why. We are called Hashem's children. We're the only ones called Hashem's children. When you hear people from other religions and nations say, oh, we're all the children of God, that is unequivocally false. The Jewish people are the only ones that are called Banim Hashem. Why? Because Hashem had a precious gift that he wanted to offer all the nations of the world. They all turned him down. He came to the Bnei Yishmael and said, you want the Torah? They said, what's in it? You can't steal. Nope, we don't want it. He came to the Bnei Esav. I want to give you the Torah. What's in it? You can't murder. Nope, we don't want it. Only the Jewish people accepted the Torah when we said what? Na'asa v'nishma. We'll do whatever you want, Hashem, and then we'll figure out the reasons. Well, the easiest and perhaps most beautiful way to see the divine nature, to see the proof is in the pudding, to see just how special what we have as Jews in our Holy Torah is just as easy as looking at the letters itself. Look at all the information we were able to glean from just the mem, from its shape, from its order in the alphabet, from its numerical equivalent, from the essence of its name, which is the water. All of these things are so beautiful, and there's, God willing, 21 lectures left. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Just mind-blowing. It's a very fun one to research because I'm very into the number 40. I've done lots of lectures before on the number 40, and also I love going to the mikvah. It is a rejuvenation, and that is exactly what the letter is. If anyone out there would like to sponsor any lecture on any topic in Judaism, specifically if you want to do one of the letters, again, 8 lectures have already been sponsored. I've got 15 out there. So if there's a letter you're thinking of, message me. I'll tell you if it's already been sponsored. Anyone that would like to sponsor one lecture a month, I am starting a new series called Torah Emes. It will be all of my sponsors that sponsor once a month. We will gather twice a month, probably for an hour each, on a Zoom lecture. It will not be going anywhere on my social media. It will be very intimate. People feel like they'll have the ability to share without it being broadcast, to all of the fans out there. All of these people have one thing in common. and it's directly related to the mem. All of these people want spiritual growth, spiritual renewal, to not be the people that they were yesterday, a month ago. They all want to grow, and they can all handle and live with and strive for emes. And what is the middle letter of emes? The mem. Perhaps the most mystical, spiritual, and special letters of them all, which is why Hashem anchored it right in the middle of the alphabet for stability. Wishing everybody a wonderful, wonderful day.